Sahanavavatu Sahano bhunaktu Sahaviryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
As we journey through the Ashtavakra Gita, we learn a lot of practical tips and practical ways of experiencing that state of the self, and also be able to check on ourselves as to whether we are really progressing or not. 'Cause a lot of things stop happening which used to happen earlier as you journey, and a lot of other things should happening which had not happened earlier on this journey. So that is how you experience a different way of life. As I said, Ashtavakra is not about changing anything on the outside so much as it is about changing things within. The outside changes are far easier to make, though they may appear to be tougher, to let go of a lot of things which we are so very fond of, attached to, or we crave for. Even then, it is comparatively easier to give up things on the outside, Ashtavakra says. What is more difficult is to give up one's inside ideas, ambitions, desires, attachments, all delusions. These are more difficult to give up. So when we see people living a certain life, apparently like that of a renunciate, it is not necessary that they are renounced everything from within also. It may be the beginning of their process of letting go, by letting go of the easier things first and then later the difficult ones from inside. Like when we have children writing exams, we always advise them, please attempt the easier questions first so that you gain some confidence and you will save time. And then you attempt the tougher ones later, because if you start with the tougher ones first, there is a good possibility that you might get stuck, lose your confidence, and get depressed, and then also lose a lot of time. And finally realize that there were so many other easy questions which I could have easily attempted, but there is no time left now. So sometimes in the spiritual path, it is okay to start with the easier things first, which is letting go of the external things. But that is not the end of the journey. By giving up a few external things, if we start imagining that we have really grown spiritually, we have progressed, and we don't need any further efforts, then that would be fooling oneself. That is just the first step to build, as this is, strength or the stamina to run a long race. But the inner issues that we have to give up is the difficult ones. And we have to attempt them also, like attempting the tougher questions later. And that is the way of life. Way of life. And life also is like that. First, it throws at you smaller challenges to build your spiritual resilience, spiritual strengths. But as you start growing more and more and more, your challenges also start increasing in their intensity, frequency, and the size. And you will realize this as you walk on the spiritual path. Why our life is getting tougher than what it was earlier. It should have become easier than what it was earlier, is what we imagine. But life gets tougher, challenges become difficult, problems become insurmountable. And you start to wonder on the way whether you are on a spiritual path or the other way. Why are we facing so many difficulties when we are walking the path of God? Look at the lives of all the saints, all the sages. They only got tougher with time. They lost everything or everyone in their lives over a period. The other day I was mentioning about Mantralayam and Sri Raghavendra Tirtha Swamiji, who was born in a simple family but very poor, because those were the times when India was going through a decline in the spiritual and religious fervor. and there were other forces that had invaded the country, and the religion was suffering a lot. And so people who were generally belonging to the Vedic traditions were not given their due. And that's how he suffered a lot as a very poor man. And when he grew up a little more, he happened to marry. And then the marriage also turned out to be so difficult. He wouldn't even have food to feed the children. And when he allowed all the children to come, because he was very knowledgeable and intelligent, so when he started his teaching Gurukula, children were coming from the higher upper caste families. But then he saw somebody from a lower caste family also who wanted to learn. So he allowed that boy in, and that created a huge ruckus in the town. They said he is destroying our parampara or our culture or our traditions by allowing non-eligible lower caste people also to study the Vedas and higher truths. And so they withdrew all the students, and he was back to the life of penury. He did not even have money to pay for his child's food or medicine. And so that he lost everything. He lost his child, and eventually his guru told him to take up the ashram and run it. So he had to take sannyasa for that. It means he had to renounce his family. And he renounced his family with the permission of the wife, but then the wife felt so very, in a way, dejected. She wanted to see him badly before he became a sannyasi. And in her emotions, she ran and fell into a well and died. So he was left with nothing, no money, no wealth, no family, nothing, no respect also actually. And then in the Gurukula also, where there's Matha also, where he took up his job, he faced several obstacles because the rulers were not favorable to Hindu religion at that time. So he had to face a lot of ridicule and threats. Despite that, he stuck to what he had got to do, and he traveled all places around to spread our spirituality and culture. And that is how finally he became what he became. So people see the final result and say, oh, that man is being worshipped. But they do not see what it takes to reach there, to be able to receive that adoration and worship. All saints and sages, look at their lives. Tukaram's life you take, or you take the life of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Physically, materially, they were very, very difficult lives. And seemed like it only got more difficult as they started growing more spiritually. So when challenges come in our life, what should we think? We should only think that seems like we are growing, therefore our challenges are getting bigger. Like as you grow from class 1 to grade 12, your subjects only get tougher and more complex. Your examinations become longer. Class 1 children write exams for half an hour, and that itself sounds like too much of work. They study books which will hardly have 30 pages. But when you come to grade 12, you have very complex things to learn and to write exams on. And those exams are also very long, 3-hour long exams. And still time is not sufficient. So the challenges become bigger and bigger on the spiritual path as you grow. It is no point in coming and crying foul or complaining about it. Why it is happening like this? Because you are growing spiritually till the last vestiges of ego and attachment are completely erased from your being, your spirituality is not done. So spirituality is not a bed of roses as it is imagined to be. Probably it is a crown of thorns, but then those who wear it, if they are truly spiritual, they don't really feel it. They don't really talk about it. They don't really complain about it. Challenges, difficulties are a part of your life and you have to deal with it. You can't complain about it because that is how you are meant to grow stronger. So when you easily overcome a challenge and you think, oh, I've gained something, God will send a bigger challenge your way because He wants to really develop you. When you go to a gym, you start with small weights, 2 kgs, 5 kgs, that itself sounds like feels like a mountain. But eventually as you grow your muscles, you want to develop a good shape, a good body, good physique. What do? You go on increasing the weight. Easier or difficult to have lift more weight than what you lifted previous day? It is more difficult, right? It strains your muscles more. It hurts, it pains. But you were willing to undergo all that pain because there is a higher purpose. And the purpose is to develop a nice physique or become a bodybuilder or a weightlifter. For that sake, we are ready to sacrifice all our comforts and undergo so much of pain. Some ordinary man will say, why you have to suffer like this? You're born in a decent family. You don't have to labor like that. You don't have to struggle like that. Why are you lifting those weights and tearing your muscles and then suffering injuries and then feeling all the pain? And why? But he has a purpose. He has a higher purpose to gain something greater than just having an ordinary shape. So that drives us to do greater things in life. Similarly, when we want to achieve the greatest thing, which is God, the only way you can get God is to give up everything. God cannot be partially attained. Okay, 50% of the world, let it be with me, 50% God is sufficient for me. No, you don't get it like that. It has to be 100% God and not even a 0.0001% of the world in it. That is how God comes. Otherwise, God does not come. It appears that He has come, but it is not happened to you. Even the last smallest trace of ego or attachment can repel spirituality. It won't come in. It won't come in. So don't think that it is a proportionate thing that slowly you're partially getting spiritual. There's nothing called partial spirituality. Yes, you're on the way. But on the way is not being on the in that place. You can say, yes, I have to go to Chikbalapur. It is 5 kilometers away. And I am now third kilometer from Udanhalli, another 2 kilometers to go. You can only say I'm on the way to Chikbalapur. But can you enjoy Chikbalapur? No, because you're not there yet. If you want to go and buy something from the market there in Chikbalapur, at the third mile from here, you can't say I am third mile from here, so I am already having partially I am able to buy things from Chikbalapur. No, you cannot. Unless you reach Chikbalapur, you cannot buy anything that you are going to buy in Chikbalapur. Likewise, unless you are God, you do not enjoy the true freedom, that spiritual freedom. You suffer. Howsoever little, you still suffer. And to get closer, as you said, you climb a peak. As you go closer to the peak, the climb becomes steeper. At the foothills, it is easy. And small challenges you can easily navigate because that is quite a flat surface. It is not a steep, inclined terrain. But once you get closer and closer to the peak, your climb becomes steeper. And then you struggle for breath. There is less oxygen. Already your muscles are all trembling. They're tired. And then you have to keep still climbing because that is where the peak is. So being on the way to the peak is not being on the peak. Likewise, being on the way to your spiritual destiny is not being spiritual. It's on the way to that. You might see some nice sceneries as you climb. You might get some good views. But that is not the ultimate view. So challenges are a part of life, and I have seen any number of people. The more you get closer to God, the steeper your challenges become. The more difficult life becomes materially. The more it takes for you to continue and not give up. So it is that way. I see a lot of these immature spiritual people, they just started something, they would have experienced some things. And they think that is the ultimate. That is not. Last time we just said, even samadhis that Janaka talks about, he says, fine, things happen as per whatever happens. But samadhis of seeing things or experiencing things by effort or without effort, both do not matter. It should be an effortless state of existence. That is what I've been able to establish myself in. He has said that in the previous one. And he says that this state is very rare to come by, even for so-called yogis who are only having a cowpin cloth around their waist to hide their modesty. Even they are incapable of experiencing this ultimate state. Though they have externally given up everything, they are incapable of that. It doesn't come to everybody. It has to be in a complete internal cleaning. Absolutely zero impurity. That is the demand of spirituality. Everything in the world you can get 60% marks and pass. In spirituality, the passing marks are 100%. So what can you do about it? Nothing you can do about it because that is the passing marks. That is the rule. That is why spirituality is not something that everybody wants to take up. Especially not the purest and the ultimate spirituality. Because that means you have to let go of everything. Not one iota of any of the world should remain in you. That's a very tough ask. As long as you have a comfortable life in a good ashram and you get to attend some satsangs and then go back and discuss on and on for hours about how much you have learned today and how many concepts you have grasped. All this is easy. Going off to the temple, sitting there for 2 hours, doing meditation, bhajan, puja, coming back elevated and exhilarated that, oh, I have achieved something today, I've spent this many hours. It's very easy. Reading up a lot of books and also learning Sanskrit to be able to quote fluently and impress an audience is very easy. Also making a small charities here and there, just to on my birthday, on their birthday, this, that, give something to the temple, give something to orphanage, give something to that, but keep most of it for yourself. Very easy. And you imagine that you somehow become spiritual by doing all these things. Janaka says, no. I was like that at some point in time. I was doing all these things and feeling very good about it. That I have become elevated and I have become spiritual and I'm one of the most spiritual kings around. But now I know it's not so. Now I know. And he said, now I know that this state which has come to me by your blessings, Ashtavakra, though I have things, I don't feel I own them anymore. And nor I have the desire to just throw them away because I'm supposed to be spiritual. Both ideas don't exist in me anymore. I'm happy as I am. If it comes, good. If it doesn't come, also good. Both ways I am okay. This is where I have reached, and this is what is my experience, and this is the sukham, this is the idea of happiness that I'm enjoying. He says, when was the body, mind, and speech not put to trouble in this world, in the pursuit of the world? Even in the pursuit of the purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, also we have struggled. We have strained ourselves, stressed our minds, troubled our tongues, strained our bodies. Because any desire that leads to some kind of outcome which you are interested in will cause strain. You cannot live effortlessly once you have a desire. There will be a sense of effort in that. That effort, when have I not put, when we have not suffered, it says. No, I was not doing it for my selfish sake. But for the sake of selfless also, good to the society also, you have struggled only. It was not an effortless service. So where is the question of you having attained that ultimate peace and joy? It is not yours. He says, all that I have experienced, I have given up the pursuit of all that, and now I am sthita sukham. I have attained that state of joy because there is no trace of ego, attachment, or desire left in me. Whether I am running the kingdom, or I am doing philanthropy, or I am doing charity, or doing some ritual or austerities, all of it is an effortless flow. There is no more me in it. It is just he. And that is how it is flowing, he says. And as our scriptures say, Atmanam chet vijaniyat, ayam asmi iti purushaha, kimucchan kasya kamaya shariram anusvanjaret. From Brihadaranyaka Upanishad it comes. It says, once the person knows, I am that, I am asmi, I am, not even I am that, I am this self. Once he knows that, what happens? Kim icchan, for what desire? Kasya kamaya, for what ambition or wishes? Shariram anusvanjaret, should he put his body to stress or difficulty or distress himself? What is the need for it? Once you know you are that, where is the need to go and get something? You are that. It's like you searching for yourself. How can that be? If you say, I am searching for myself, have you seen myself somewhere I am searching for? The Guru will tell you are that which you are searching. How do I show you that you are that? You have to experience it yourself. So that idea, once you have that idea and experience, where is the question of putting your body, mind or speech to any trouble? For what sake should you speak? For what sake should you work? For what sake should you think? Because you are that, you are fulfilled now. And whatever happens through your body, mind and speech, that's divinely ordained. It just flows. There is no trace of ego or doership in it. That's a very exalted state of existence. I tell you what he said, no? Even those who have given up everything and just surviving on air and wearing a piece of cloth, just small piece of cloth, they also are incapable of attaining this. Because some ego will be there, some attachment will be there, some desire will be there, howsoever little. But this spirituality demands that every trace of it has to be completely erased and cleaned up. So it is a tall order. It may sound very nice and familiar, but it is not easy. I struggle with it. You tell me, I struggle with it. Whenever there is a great difficulty or challenge, there are obstacles which are bigger than the last time. You have to think, how do you, last time you overcame, now this is getting bigger and bigger. So you have to At that point in time, you stand up like Rama stood in front of that huge army of Ravana and lost his heart. I cannot fight this war. This is not my cup of tea. I have fought small demons and small kings. That's okay. But this seems like much larger than what I am capable of. He loses his heart. That's when Agastya comes and gives him courage. Likewise, challenges get bigger and bigger and bigger every time you go closer to God. And you wonder at times, why? But the only reason and answer is because you are getting closer. That is why. And if you don't want to be a closer, then take a U-turn and go back and be settled in those foothills. The view will never be yours. It's up to you. Nobody is forcing you to walk this path of spirituality. Nobody is dragging you into it. It is your personal choice. As Manusmriti says, Sarvam Paravasham Dukkham, Sarvam Atmavasham Sukham. Etad Vidhaya Samasena Lakshana Sukha Dukkhayoho. What are the indicators of happiness and sorrow? When you do things on your own volition, by your own wish, that is happiness. When you are forced to do something which you do not wish to do, that is sorrow. This is the way you should understand how you become happy or how you become sad. When you do things out of your own joy or joyful wish, you want to do it, then you will take up any amount of challenges and you are okay. You will not complain because you want it. It's out of your wish. It is by your own wish. Whereas if somebody tells you do this, even a simple thing sounds like a terrible thing because you don't want to do it. You're not in it. Likewise, the spiritual path is like that. If you walk this path on your own by knowing the importance of it, by knowing the purpose for it, by knowing how it is going to help you, nobody needs to push you into this path. Nobody needs to coax you, push you, nudge you, force you. And when you walk like this on your own volition, on your own, by your own desire or wish, you will enjoy the journey even if there are obstacles. But when somebody else has pushed you or you have taken up this because look good or oblige somebody or, as I said, impress someone, then this will be a terrible path. At every turn you will cry foul. So this is why if you take this path of spirituality up on your own, by understanding its importance, by reading scriptures and listening to gurus, if that inspires you to walk this path on your own, it will be a joyful journey, even though it will be fraught with several challenges and obstacles, which will get only bigger at every mile. But you will still undertake it because you know why you're doing it. You're doing it out of your own happiness or for your own joy. But if you're forced to do, then you will not enjoy it. That is another thing you must remember on this path. So if you're not enjoying it, it only means that it is not something that you truly believe in. It is not something that you're doing it out of your own joy. You're doing it because of you've been forced to do it, or you have been told to do it, or you want to impress somebody, or you want to look good, whatever the other reason. It's not really from your inside. So you don't enjoy. Otherwise, every time I face an obstacle, I ask myself, why are we doing this? Why are we taking up so much more burden than what we already carry? Why are we doing this for the next person who has come asking for another kind of help? Why are we expanding the work? Why are we not limiting it to make it easy? Why challenges are getting bigger? The only answer to me is that this is the joy that we receive by giving joy to others. There is no other reason. If you're doing it for your own whatever self-promotion, then you will suffer. Because at every turn there will be an obstacle waiting, and which will surprise you. Because it will be very different and bigger than the previous one. You couldn't even predict it, but it would come. And that's when again the question will arise, is it worth it? Should we continue? Or should we return? Or should we stop? And then your inner voice should speak to you, nobody from outside. It should tell you, why are you on this path? And the path is only because you want to experience the joy of giving joy to others. Then you should be on this path. But if there is any other reason because of which you are there, you will sooner or later become dejected and you will question everything. So what is the reason you are on it? Is it out of your own volition or is it out of some compulsion? That is something that one has to ask oneself, because if it's out of compulsion, it won't last. You can act that you are enjoying it, but you don't really enjoy it. So it will happen like that. But if you like it, you will definitely do it even despite of all the challenges. Like all these sports people get up at unearthly hours, train and train and train for years just to run that 100-meter dash, which will last only a few seconds. For that glory that comes from that 100-meter dash, which will last maybe 12, 13 seconds, you have trained for 10, 13, 15 years every single morning, undertaken so much of austerities actually, without eating this, without eating that, not doing as you please, but following the rigorous routine, diet, exercises, all this for that one moment of glory, right? So if you want to do it, nobody needs to tell you, and you wouldn't complain. How do you know you're on the right path? You won't complain. If you start complaining about it, you are not in it, out of your own wish. That is why when people complain to me about why this is not good, why they are not happy, I know that they are not meant to be in this path. Because today small complaints, tomorrow as the path gets steeper, bigger complaints will come and finally they'll drop out. Because they are not in it by their will. They are here for some benefits. They're here for some other, dependencies. They're here for some other desires. As long as they get fulfilled, they'll be on this path. Otherwise, they won't be. So I know people who are really in it because of their own wish and who are here due to some compulsion or, as I said, some dependencies, some helplessness. You can see the difference between the two. Who are on this path on their own, they're joyful despite challenges and obstacles. They don't complain. Those who are here because of compulsion and some other dependencies and some other needs, they are complain. Because they're not on this path because they wanted to be here. That is how I know who is real and who is not real. This is how I differentiate between the true spiritual seekers and those who appear to be true spiritual seekers. Now you can tell one from the other based on how they undertake this journey. The next sloka is on 13.3, page number 153. It says, Kritam kimapi naiva syat iti sanchintya tatvatah yada yat kartumayati tat kritva se yatha sukham. Again, a very beautiful, inspiring shloka. This is the way of the Gyanis. What does it say? Kritam kimapi naiva syat. There is nothing indeed to be accomplished or done in this world. Oh, we have to do this, we have to pass this exam, then get a job, then get this, get that, go ahead, go. All this is absolute nonsense. There is nothing to be done in this world, he says. Imagine being a king who is ruling a huge kingdom. He has to collect taxes, make policies, pass judgments, run the show. He says there is nothing to be done in this world indeed. Kimapi, and nothing at all. Iti sanchitya tattvataha, having understood. Sanchintya means chinta, means to think, analyze, observe, understand, finally conclude. What is the conclusion? There is nothing that needs to be done here. This whole idea of doing and achieving and ambition and finally outcomes and then exhilaration and excitement or depression and dejection, all this is absolute nonsense. There is nothing one needs to be really jumping and doing things here. I will explain because this could be confusing. So once you understood how tattvataha in the essence of it, why it has to be done or not done in a certain way. In the essence, if you have understood what happened, yadayat kartum ayati, tat kritva se yathasukham. You do as things happen to you. You just go with the flow, that's what it says. So it says that yadayat kartum ayati, whatever comes as and when, your way, that you have to do it. You just get up and do it. You don't ask, why should I only be doing it? Why they are not doing it? Why I should be given tougher tasks? Why they should not be given tough ones? Why I only have to face all the challenges? Why things are easy for them? You don't ask all these questions anymore. You just get up and do what is needed to be done because that has come by the divine will or by your destiny. Whichever way. You didn't initiate it. You didn't desire for it. You didn't want to do it. It just came. It just came your way. So you just get up and do it without asking any questions or complaining about it. Yada yat kartum ayati tat kritva ase yatha sukham. Doing what needs to be done, I have experienced happiness, joy, this established self which is joyful. There is no more wanting to do, achieve and not being able to achieve, then struggling and failing and then crying and complaining and then fighting and resisting. None of these exist in me anymore. What comes as a natural flow to me, I just go with the flow and it needs to be done, it gets done. If it's not done also, I am okay because I have done, as an instrument, I have just made myself available. You may find it very difficult to differentiate between these two things, doing and being and instrumenting. Very, very subtle difference. It's like a hairline. difference or the gap. One is really doing, and one is instrumenting. On the surface, both look the same because somebody is doing something, he is the doer. You see him doing, you know it is the doer. Same and instrumentation also, you will see he is doing. Same, if from the external point of view, both look the same. Both scenes are the same. But internally, both are different. Externally, they look the same. This man is also doing, who is the doer, who has the ego that I am doing it, because of me things are happening, and without me things won't happen. And the other person who is also doing, but with the inner attitude that I am just instrumenting the will of God. Both will exert themselves, both will put the same amount of efforts, both will attain the same amount of excellence in whatever they are doing. On the external, you cannot differentiate a jnani from an agyani. But on the inside, the jnani is doing with absolute no doership and attachments. It's like an instrument which is just flowing. Whereas an agyani is burdened in the inside with the idea that I am the doer. That difference exists, which we cannot perceive from the outside. It requires you to be a jnani to know another jnani. As in Hindi, it says, Jauhari ki gati, Jauhari jane. Only one jeweler knows the other jeweler. Its capability. Like if you show a diamond, this jeweler knows what is its worth, and only another jeweler will know what is the diamond's worth. Ordinary people cannot understand. Like that Meera says, what I am going through in my devotion to Krishna, in this separation for Krishna, only another Meera will know what it is like. Others cannot comprehend. Like that, who is a jnani, who is an agyani, nobody can know from the outside. Only another man who is wise will know whether the other person is wise or not. Otherwise, it is not possible. Because on the surface and the external, people can put up a very good show. And they can fool you into thinking that they are really wise people. But only a really who is real wise person will know the difference between the two. The fake people in the world and the real people in the world can be differentiated only by real people in the world. A real man of wisdom will be known to a real man of wisdom. Yeah. In Hindi, they say chor chor mausere bhai, means a thief knows another thief. When they meet each other, they know, I know you are also a thief, you are acting like a saint, I am also a thief, that's how I know that you are not a saint. Likewise, only a jnani knows jnani. The difference between the real wise person and the other wise person. Only a real person knows. So, all I'm saying is that all this doing and enjoying and achieving and whatever that comes out of it, I'm done with all this, Janaka says. I was like that at some point in time. I thought because of me the kingdom runs, without me nothing happens. If I am not there, all this is not going to work. All these ideas I had, and I used to get excited at times because of the right things, right decisions, right outcomes, and get dejected, depressed, frustrated, angry when things didn't go the way I expected them to be. But all that doing and achieving and enjoying and suffering is over. Because I've carefully analyzed life and what happens in life. This whole thing is a trap. It appears like real, but it's a trap, which traps you into thinking that you are the doer and therefore you are the enjoyer. There's nothing needed to be done here. If something comes by virtue of your fate, destiny, or divine will, it will happen through you. You will be just a witness, an instrument, that's it. And how do you know you are an instrument? Before, during, and after the work, your state of mind remains the same. It doesn't mean that before you are anxious, during also you are anxious, after that also you are anxious. No. Before also you were calm, during the work also you were calm, and after the work also you are calm. Before the work, all anxiety, whether it will happen, how it will happen. During the work, all the pressure, stress, and after the work, again the fear of the outcome. None of these exist in a person who is instrumenting the divine will. But the one who is not instrumenting, his state of mind will keep changing at every step. Before he will be very anxious or excited. During he'll be either depressed or too joyful that I am able to achieve. And after that outcome, whether everybody has seen I did it, whether they recognize it, all these ideas will bother this person. Because he is stuck in that doership. He is not instrumenting. So Janaka is saying there is nothing to be done. It does not mean we all hang our boots and say, oh, Janaka said nothing to be done. We don't have to study. We don't have to go to offices. We don't have to work. No, what he means is that This idea of doing is false. That is illusion. Instrumenting is okay. And now you know the difference between the two. Before, during, and after, your state of mind remains same, calm and equanimous, doesn't change. Small fluctuations may happen because you're engaging your mind and body. It's like a road which is rough, naturally a little bit of discomfort, but more or less you are there in the same state. You don't really change much. That is the beauty of this idea, that there is nothing to be done, and I have thought about it sanchintya tattvataha. I have thought about it in the essence of it, not on the surface. Not the surface, superficial understanding, oh yes, I should be instrument, I should not be the doer. And then actually you suffer all the doership later. No, I have carefully analyzed and observed and concluded, after years of doing it all wrong, finally I've understood that this was all wrong. Now I have understood what was the right thing to do. So now what is my disposition? Yada yat kartum ayati tat kritva ase yatha sukham. Whatever comes my way, I accept it, execute it, and I'm, after being done with it, I'm back to the state of joy. I'm always in the state of joy. When you don't remember a thing of what you did, it means you didn't do it. Somebody did it for you. It's like if somebody does something, how do you know? How do you experience? You can't experience. You have no means to experience that, because it's other than you. Likewise, when you're instrumenting, you remember nothing or not most of it anymore. Why? Because you have instrumented. It was never yours in the first place. It came and went. That became my experience thereafter. So how do you know whether you're a doer or you're an instrument? In doer, you will remember, you will go through the agony and ecstasy of all that which happens during the doing. In instrumentation, you will come back untouched, unaffected, undisturbed. Before, during, after, same state. But afterwards, somebody comes and tells you, what a wonderful speech, you did very well. You feel like a thief if you take the credit for it. You feel it was God who did it, and how do I even say yes to whatever you're saying? You feel guilty of accepting any praises for what you did. That is how you know whether you're instrumenting or not instrumenting. Somebody asks, I'm meditating, I feel tremendous amount of bliss and joy. And that memory of it remains with me even after I come out of it and then get normal. Is that Brahman or is it my mind? I said, if you have a memory of it, then it was your mind. If you have no memory of it, just of a vast, far distant, some little memory of that experience, then it was Brahman. But you have memory, I went inside, then I saw the red light, then yellow, then green. Now you're seeing traffic lights, you're not seeing Brahman. Many people ask like that. So I tell them, if you felt that you were going through something and you have memories of every of it, it was your mind only. Mind contains memory. Chitta is the property of mind, the memories. But self does not have memory. It is free. So when you come out of such a state, you just know that you were in a state like that. How long you were there, you have no idea. How deep it was, you have no idea. What all the other things you experienced during the state, you have no idea. You just know that you were in that state, that's all. That is Brahmasthiti. Otherwise, it is Brahma only, of different types of experiences in meditations. When people lure you with these kind of things, you come here and I will open your chakra and then you will experience that. Yes, they are all spiritual, some benefits only, but they are on the way. They were all on the way. They were not on the spot. So these differentiation between doing and instrumenting, one must know in our institutions especially. Because when you're instrumenting, you will not have ego. You will not have doership. You will not have even the memory of it. And when somebody credits you with what has happened, you feel terribly guilty. Honestly guilty. Not like, on top we say, oh, it's all God who did it. That is all superficial talks. No, deep inside you feel it. It doesn't mean that after that you take a mic and say, please don't acknowledge me, it's God who did everything. You don't feel the need for doing that also. You are just quiet. Somebody says, you did very well, just smile and leave it at that. You don't have to go and explain, I was not the doer, God was the doer, I am the instrument. Please don't credit me. Don't have to say a thing. This saying things also is an act of ego only. Trying to differentiate between yourself and God. So they will just keep quiet. They'll just smile and keep quiet. Whatever the other person understands is up to the other person, whether this was accepting the credit or this was rejecting the credit. That is the other person's problem, not my problem. That is how this Jnani lives. This is what Ashtavakra, this is what Janaka is saying. Sanchintya tattvataha. I have understood in the essence, the deepest essence of doership, how it happens, what happens when you are doing, what are the experiences you go through, what happens the beginning, middle, and the end of it all. I understand fully tattvataha, completely. I have analyzed and understood this concept of doing. And now I am free because there is no desire to do, nor there is a desire to not do. Desire to do is one problem. Desire to not do is another problem. I have no desire. Whatsoever comes my way, I will just execute as an instrument and be done with it and be in the state of happiness. This is the second type of shloka that has inspired me. First was the Mayananta Mahambodha. The second shloka, a similar shloka like this come later also, which says, Pravruttava nivruttava naiva dhirasya durgraha yadayat kartu mayati tatkritva tishtati sukham. This shloka will come in some other chapter. But this also inspired me, saying that to engage or to disengage is not a problem for the wise ones. Foolish fellows, the ignorant ones, once they get involved in something, they get so feverish about it, they just can't get out of it. They can't sleep, eat, breathe. Only one thing, keep doing, keep doing. Workaholics. And then those who are withdrawn ones, something goes wrong, never again I will touch this, never again I will work, never again I will engage, never again involve. That another attitude they develop. For a wise one, both do not exist. Pravrutto means to act, or nivrutto to disengage. Both do not have a problem. They don't have a problem. Durgraha is not there. Yada yad kartum ayati tat kritva tishtate sukham. Whatever comes their way, they do it and they are happy. Same message here. Yada yad kartum ayati tat kritva se yatha sukham. I am happy, established. This whole concept of doing and not doing is called as krita akritya. Krita krityascha bharata, says Krishna in Bhagavad Gita too. Because Arjuna is suffering from this idea, oh, if I do this war, what are the consequences? What will I go through? What will be the after effects? What karma I'll incur? Sins I'll incur? So many problems and questions he had. That time in a beautiful chapter called Purushottama Yoga, again a must read for all seekers. 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Purushottama Yoga, he says, who am I and who are you and what is this whole doing all about? And he says there are two kinds of things, Kshara and Akshara. Kshara is the destructible, Akshara is the indestructible. Both exist in you. The body and the mind are destructible. The self or the soul is indestructible. Both exist in you. But I am the Purusha, Uttama Purusha, beyond the Kshara and Akshara, he says. It means Kshara is the body and mind. Akshara is the Jivatma Bhava. It's the part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, but it is existing in us like the reflection of sun that exists in a pot of water, or like electricity that exists in one of these bulbs. But there is a bigger electricity which is running through the circuit. That is what I am, Krishna says. I am the Supreme Purusha. Uttama Purusha, he calls himself. So what is the shloka say? After having explained to him that you are the Jivatma, you appear to be doing things. But it is the Paramatma only who is really doing things through you. The body and mind are just instruments. They are just machines, equipment. They don't do anything. You see a surgeon using various instruments. The instruments don't do anything, appear to do. There is a hand behind the instrument which is doing. Likewise, there is a divinity behind everything which does, and that divinity is not your individual property. Jivatma. No, it's not the electricity in that bulb. It is the same electricity running in all bulbs. That is the idea, he says. So he tells one shloka in 15th chapter, he says, Iti guhyav tamam shastram idam muktam mayanagha. This is the secret of the secrets I'm telling you, Arjuna, so that you are free from all this idea of doership and enjoyership. Unnecessary you are suffering that you are going to kill people, that will cause sins. Don't do. Iti guhyatamam shastram. Guhyatamam means extremely secretive, because most of the fools cannot even grasp it. Secret is what? It's not something that is told. Telling something and people not understanding is not a problem at all. You're telling something which people have understood, then it is no more a secret, right? So he says, Arjuna, I have explained to you and I have made this secret known to you, which many people in this world do not know. They go on thinking they are the doers and they are the enjoyers and they suffer. But I have taught you it is not so. I am the one. The real Supreme Self is the one who does everything. All these are instrumentation only. They don't realize it. They suffer unnecessarily. He says, like I said, Etad buddhya buddhiman syad. Become intelligent, become analytic, become observant of this idea. After knowing this truth, become observant. What I am saying to you, same thing. Now become observant. Whether you are a doer or you are an instrument. Every time you do a thing, next time something is being done, analyze. Buddhiman syat, become intelligent. How? How is my state of mind before, during, and after? Check on yourself. That will tell you whether you're instrumenting or you're suffering the doership still. Whether you have memories of it and which you feel like taking credit for and get angry when you don't get credit, or you have no memory of it and even if people give credit, you do not want to accept it. What is your state? Check on yourself. Etad buddhya buddhiman syat. Krit krityascha bharata, he says. Krita krityascha bharata. Be done with this doing and not doing. Arjuna, he tells Arjuna, Krishna tells Arjuna, the same idea here. So the practical tip is, how do I know whether I am actually the doer or I am only the instrument? What is your state of mind before, during, and after? And two, do you have memory of it? And do you crave for acknowledgement? If these things don't exist, absolutely you are in the Brahmasthiti. Brahman took over and did what was needed to be done using your body, mind, and everything else. So you have no memory, no what you call craving for acknowledgement for it. And your state of mind therefore remained the same. Maybe little fluctuations are permitted because when hot water passes through a pipe, it also makes the pipe hot. A little bit it rubs onto the pipe, that's about it. But pipe eventually will come back to the normal state. Likewise, for that moment you might experience some little bit of exhilaration or little anxiety, but afterwards you have no memory of it. As if it was done aeons ago. You don't even feel that it happened recently. That is the feeling that you get when you are really in the present and you are totally instrumenting the divine will. So check on all these things is what he says. Again, a lot of beautiful shlokas come from Bhagavad Gita which says our gunas make us do things in the world. We don't do anything. We are just puppets in the hand of gunas. That is the other theory. Where he says that Krishna says in 3rd chapter, Prakrite kriyamani gunaihe karmani sarvashaha. All the works in the world is done by the gunas. Gunas are the instincts within. A singer has the singing instinct. An engineer has an engineering instinct. A doctor has a medicine related instinct. A sportsman has a sports instinct. So why is a good sportsman? Because he is born like that. There are the gunas which are there in him, embedded, inherent. That is the reason. So the idea is that you recognize this, that you are not the doer. The moment you associate with doing, all the suffering starts. So what is your state? Yada yat kartum ayati. Whatever comes your way, you just lend yourself to it. That's it. Good things happen. As long as you didn't feel the doership, fine. Suppose nothing good happens, some problems happen, failures and setbacks happen. Accept it. As long as you don't feel the doership. It's okay. We do surgeries, we lose children also. Not that every child is saved. Our doctors do their very best. We lose some children, some patients. Part of life. Nobody does it intentionally, but it happens. Now if the doctors becomes overwhelmed with what happened and does not have the courage to face the next child, he would be denying the next child the opportunity to live because of his attachment to the doership and the enjoyership. So when they ask me, I only ask them, have you done everything that is medically possible under the sky in your capacity? Yes, leave it. The child has survived, divine will. Child did not survive, divine will. And develop the courage to go face the next patient and do your very best. But if you linger on in the previous thoughts, you will be doing injustice to the next patient. Isn't it? So therefore, doership is very detrimental to excellence and perfection in life. The moment doership comes, all perfection goes for a toss. Because you get anxious, then you make mistakes. So in a process, if something is feeling like a burden, you know that there is something wrong with the process. You must change the process of doing it. In the sense, you must not be so attached to the work or to the outcome of the work. Then it will happen perfectly. So what destroys the perfection? Doership destroys perfection. Enjoyership ruins the very process. So what will be the antidote for it? No doership, no enjoyership, just effortless flow. How will effortless flow come to you? Completely surrendered. There is no anxiety and restlessness. But those who are workaholic, they cannot understand what I'm saying. That is why our Krishna says, Api sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chechasa. He tells, give up this idea of doing. It is not there here, but it is in Bhagavad Gita. Give up this idea of doing. Api sarvani karmani sanyasya. Give up this doing, all the actions. Adhyatma chetasa, by becoming spiritual inside, where you see through the falsity of everything. All this doership and joyship is a false thing. It's a one great divine will under which everything can happen as long as we don't interfere with it. Like yesterday they played orchestra, 7 of them. Perfectly in tune, perfectly in sync. No confusion, no deviation. Everybody is in tune. So divine wants to play the orchestra, but these musical instruments are not obliging. Everybody wants to do their own thing, then how there will be an orchestra? Munde, matir bhinna. Each mind thinks differently. That causes all the confusion in the world. Otherwise, divine only wants joy, happiness, peace, harmony. Then why is it not being achieved? Because the instruments are bad. They don't get tuned properly. They play their own song. And that's why all the confusion. So whenever we face obstacles, it's because of the ego clashes between people who become too adamant or too peculiar, too particular about their ways. That causes all the confusion and delays and losses and unnecessary deviations and suffering. But as a conductor of an orchestra, I can only do so much. I can only teach you, be surrendered to the master, be tuned as an instrument, be obedient to the instructions, follow the score, stick to the script. That's all I can say. Beyond that, what can I do as an orchestra conductor if the people are not following the instructions? That's why whenever there is a cacophony or disharmony, it's not because of the idea itself. It's because of the people who are executing that idea. They don't have harmony, they cannot give up their egos, they cannot be totally selfless and surrendered, so the idea fails. Idea per se had no problem. It was a good idea. But doesn't get going or doesn't happen because of bad execution, because of too many people with too many personal agendas and egos. That destroys the purity of the thought, and eventually the process gets ruined. So what do you do? He says, Nirashi nirmamo bhutva. To Arjuna, Krishna advises, Nirashi nirmamo bhutva. Become desireless and attachmentless. Nirashi, no desire. Nirmama, no attachment. Nirashi nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha, he says. Then you fight the war, vigatajvaraha, very good word. Get rid of this fever, feverish actions. No, some people are there. Can't sit 1 second in one place. They're whirlwinds. Feverish. Says, vigatajvaraha, get rid of this fever of doership, this disease. How? Nirashi nirmamo bhutva. By becoming desireless and attachmentless. You just become ready in that kind of state of desirelessness and attachmentlessness, and get rid of this feverish pursuit of doing and enjoying, doing and enjoying, doing and enjoying continuously. That word he uses, jagadjvara, feverish, as if your temperature goes up. Whenever you want to do something, our temperature goes up, excitement or anxiety. None of these should exist. Then only you can be sukhi. Then only you can be happy. Otherwise, there is no way you can be happy in this world. And Janaka is leading the way by his own example, that I have done all this earlier. What kind of things have I not done using this body, mind and speech? When was the time my body, mind and speech were not distressed because of all this doership and joyership? Finally, I have understood that none of this was right, none of this was true. I was wrong in approaching spirituality this way. Spirituality is not about doing and enjoying, it is just about being. Doing, enjoying will be a part of the process, but your main focus is being. And just being is spirituality. That is astitaha. I am being that. I am being that. No more doing that, no more enjoying that. I am being. And everything, whatever needs to happen, it's happening as if automatically. I don't even remember what I did, why I did, and what was the purpose. I don't have any attachment to any of these things.